watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. Up next, a conversation with LEILA from a group called Solidarity for Human Rights in Palestine, McGill, about how McGill University is responding to Palestinian solidarity on campus. But first, some news headlines. Rights groups urge Canada to lift Afghan sanctions. Report measures approval rate of provincial premiers. Ottawa to host Muslim voices on foreign policy. Death toll in Iran riots climbs to at least 17. Now the details. 18 humanitarian groups are urging the Canadian government to remove its sanctions against working with the Taliban so that assistance can be provided to Afghanistan. The organisations say that anti-terrorism laws in Canada's criminal code are preventing them from dispatching supplies to people in urgent need, a media source reports. A special House of Commons committee formed in June decided that Ottawa needs to amend the rules blocking the aid to Afghanistan. The government has yet to respond to the decision. Advocacy groups are referring to this delay as, quote, a disheartening lack of urgency. Around 23 million Afghans are facing food shortages in the country due to a dwindling economy. A recent report by the Angus Reid Institute measures the approval rating of provincial premiers in their respective constituencies. The highest approval rating is of Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe at 57%. Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston and outgoing British Columbia Premier John Horgan come at the second and third spot, respectively. Houston's approval rating is 53%, while Horgan is approved by 51%. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford is sixth in line with an approval rating of 41%. Alberta's United Conservative Party leader Justin Kenny and Manitoba's Premier Heather Stefanson are the least approved premiers on the list. The National Council of Canadian Muslims, Islamic Relief Canada, and the Islamic Society of North America Canada are holding an event titled Muslim Voices on Foreign Policy this Sunday in Ottawa, Ontario. Muslim leaders and activists will come together to discuss the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, persecution of the Uyghur and Rohingya, the Palestine conflict, and human rights issues in Kashmir. They will discuss building global policies based on inclusion, diversity, and equality. The event features author and public intellectual Khalid Baidoun, Taha Ghayur from Justice for All Canada, and Idrissa Pandit, a Kashmiri scholar, will also speak at the event. The official death toll from Iran's recent unrest has shot up to at least 17. Iranians continue to protest the death of the young Kurdish woman Mahsa Amini. The 22-year-old died last week after she had been arrested by the Islamic Republic's feared morality police. Amini was allegedly wearing a hijab headscarf in an improper way. The director of a non-government group, Iran Human Rights, says Iranians have taken to the streets to achieve their fundamental rights and human dignity. He says the government is responding to their peaceful protest with bullets. According to human rights groups, security forces have fired at crowds with metal pellets and also deployed tear gas. And that's it for the news. In March this year, the Student Society of McGill University held a referendum vote on a Palestine solidarity policy. It received 71% of the votes endorsing the policy. The McGill University administration then denounced the policy and gave the student group 30 days to drop it or have their relationship with the university ended. Under this kind of pressure, the student group decided to drop the policy, saying that it did not conform to its own constitution and equity policies. They announced in April that it would not be adopted. Later on, McGill conducted a study into Islamophobia and anti-Semitism on campus, and they issued a report on equity and inclusion policies in June. To talk to us about all of this, we are joined by a member from the Solidarity for Palestinian Human Rights McGill, which was to have been on the student committee called Palestine Solidarity Committee. a special note. There has been a backlash on campus, and students supporting the vote have experienced harassment. So we will be concealing the identity of our interviewee. The interview format will be slightly different from our usual method. But thank you very much for joining us. We are calling you LEILA for today's show. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show.
Obviously, a very charged atmosphere on campus. Tell us a little bit about what it's been like.
I mean, I would say that the atmosphere on campus on behalf of supporters of the Palestinian cause is one of frustration, but not one of surprise. It's the response by the administration and the student society is not one that is surprising to us, as it is very consistent with what the administration and the student society has done in the past.
To hold a study on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia after the turmoil that surrounded the vote on the Palestine solidarity policy, does that make sense to you?
No, it absolutely doesn't make sense to us, because it's conflating a political campaign with real issues of xenophobia and anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, which are not related to our political campaign, which seeks to raise awareness about the military occupation that the Palestinians are living under and the system of apartheid that they're actually experiencing.
Can you give a little bit more detail? I did not do this in the introduction, about what the referendum policy was actually voted, what you actually voted for in the policy.
So technically, the Palestine solidarity policy is a policy of boycott. So adopting the Palestine solidarity policy would entail that our student government, known as the SSMU or the SMU, would have to take stances on the occupation of Palestinians, and they would have to write statements about the occupation. They would have to boycott and divest from any institution or corporation that are complicit in profiting from Palestinian disposition, as well as encouraging McGill to do so. It also would require the SMU to have a special Palestine Solidarity Committee that would be tasked with doing so.
Did you have Jewish groups on campus supporting the policy? Because I'm aware that there are Jewish groups who support anti-oppression movements in Palestine.
Yes, absolutely. We have a fantastic group called Independent Jewish Voices who have supported us, and not only members of this group, but we also have a lot of Jewish students on campus who are unaffiliated with any group, who just support basic human dignity. That's what it is.
In light of that, was the response from the administration a surprise? I know you said you weren't surprised about the follow-up study on Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. I'll try to circle back to that. But the response to the administration on a vote that got 70% of the student vote, did that surprise you?
No, it's not surprising, because McGill has investments and has important Zionist donors. So it's not surprising to us that they reacted that way in the least. In fact, it's a great way to silence us, because anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, as I said previously, is a very real issue. In conflating what we do with anti-Semitism and Islamophobia is a very smart way of making people afraid of interacting with our activism, because people wouldn't want to be labeled anti-Semitic or Islamophobic.
Is that controversy with the international definition of anti-Semitism that includes something around criticizing the state of Israel? There might be Jewish students on campus who experience a vote for Palestine solidarity as offensive and threatening. How do you balance this activism around trying to make Jewish students on campus feel welcome as well?
My main response to that is that our activism, and specifically the Palestine solidarity policy, is not about them. It's not about them. It's not about Jewish students on campus. It's not about Jews in general. It's about standing up for basic human dignity, standing up for the Palestinians who've been living under military occupation and under apartheid for more than 70 years now. So what I have to say is that they shouldn't feel uncomfortable, because it's not about them.
So it's an issue of human freedom, you're saying, that everyone can understand.
Yes.
What will so you're not part of the student union, you're part of this group, Solidarity for Palestinian Human Rights, McGill. Have you issued any statements, or what have been your next steps after the student union decided to not actually formally adopt the policy?
We did several things. So we held a rally. We held a rally in front of the administration building, which was attended. Maybe 200 people attended. We also had a petition circulating for faculty and staff, which approximately 80 to 90 professors and McGill staff signed. We also, so we did both of these things. And we also kept pressing our student government to start the process of applying the Palestine Solidarity Committee. So for example, we asked them when they were going to establish the Palestine Solidarity Committee that we asked them to do in the policy.
Sometimes people are afraid to even do that, put their name to a petition or attend a rally. Has there been any backlash from the administration or surveillance on students who've been expressing their political opinions in that way?
Explicitly, not that I know of, but I'm hiding my identity today, for example, because Palestinian activists in most North American campuses have been surveilled and doxxed for years now. There is a blacklist website called Canary Mission, which lists the names of activism along with all of their personal information, their pictures, which is posted on a website online. And it basically describes the person as a terrorist who supports violent actions. So we've had a lot of former organizers in the past who've had their names and their personal information up on this website.
Well, I'm sorry to cut you. We're out of time, but we do hope that for your safety and your continued ability to express your opinions and advocate on behalf of Palestinians. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe and God bless.